Hello everybody, welcome to week 3 of my tutorial series. In this video I'm going to show you how to create a bass line in Ableton Live. Please check out my previous video where we created some drums to create a bit more of like a groove for a house or techno track. I'm going to build on this today. I'm going to keep building this throughout the next few weeks, adding little bits and hopefully showing you some different tips and tricks. I'm also only going to try to show you all of these using Ableton stock sounds or free plugins. So if you are a beginner, this is more aimed at beginners. Hopefully you might pick up something that you could use if you are an advanced user of Ableton. So the first thing we're going to do in terms of creating bass lines is looking at Bootsy Collins's funk formula.
1, 2, 3, and you hit on the one, you know, one, you know. And then you would try to fit your different notes, what you felt in between that, like, you know, and that's the funk, you know, and you can change that, you know, it's however you feel, but you just have to fit it between that space, that little space that you got, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, you know, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so deconstructing the Bootsy Collins video, we're going to use his tip where you use the first note of the scale starting on the first beat of the bar. This gives you a really good starting point, especially as if you're not very familiar with music theory or how to play music, it can be quite hard knowing where to start or how to create a bass line. So bearing that in mind, if you double click in here to create a MIDI clip, this will allow you to program the notes in. Now using a new function in Ableton 11, if you press scale, you can now choose loads of different scales in here. So here's the note, the key, so what key you'll be in, and here is the different scales. Have a look and play around with the different ones. Today we are just going to focus on the minor blues. I quite like the sound of the blues scale. It sounds jazzy and it can sound quite funky with a bass line. It's basically just a pentatonic scale with an added blues note in. So if we come to G, this is now G minor blues. I'm just going to improvise with this using his advice. So starting with the root note of G. So I've double clicked in here. I'm going to open this so that the note is at a quaver. So we've got a quaver note. Also, if we come in, I'm just going to show you my bass. So I've just picked this preset from Ableton and I'm going to layer it up with a sub. In a minute I will roll off a bit of the highs because you'll hear it is quite high frequency based, and I want it to just have just a little bit of mid end on the bass. So another trick you can, if you've got a keyboard set up, if you go into these scales, you can also drag on. Let's drag on a minor blues, and if you just change it to G, now what this will do is no matter what note you press, that will allow you to improvise and play that in. That's just a tip if you have got a keyboard connected. If you don't and you just want to draw it in, we can just use this scale lock. So if I just press play now so we can listen to it. Now you can hear that's too high, so if I press Command and A to select the note and then shift and down. Quite like that there, I think. So we've got the root note of the scale on the first bit here. Now just as Bootsy Collins was saying, we've got loads more gaps to fill now, and this is where you want to vary the bass line so it's different. So if I press duplicate, this is now going over 2 bars of music, and we're going to start off with 2 bars of music and then create this and make it a bit more diverse. So I'm actually going to probably place my next note on the second beat. Now the next thing I'm going to do is keep going up here, and then the next bar I'm going to come down. So we're going to go up the scale so it goes up, and then we're going to go down in the next bit, and then we can have a bit of variation on the following one. I'm going to add a note here on the offbeat. Let's bring the root down. There we go. Finish on the G. Now, a good tip is it's always resolving to the root note of the scale. So when you write in your bass line, to kind of resolve your melody of the bass line, try resolving on the G. You can keep messing around with these different notes. It's completely up to you what kind of flavour you want. This is just my subjective way of doing it. Let's duplicate this. Now, another cool feature you can do in the new Ableton, if you press invert, this will allow you to change the order of the notes. Personally, I'm not into that one. It just doesn't sound right with it going up again. I'm going to do a bit of a mixture here. I'm going to still use this same rhythm, but this time I'm just going to change it to these notes, move about a bit. Okay, so I've slightly edited these notes here, but I'm happy with this bass line now, and we're just going to layer a sub underneath it just to give it some more low frequency energy. So I've dragged in this basic sub sine here, and I've just played around with the release time. If you just have a listen to it, that's it with a really long release time, but probably want it about there. As you can hear with the sub, it doesn't have enough high frequency content, so if someone was playing this on a laptop or phone, they wouldn't really hear it as much. So this is why I've added this fretless bass on as the top bass line, so people can hear it if they're on the phone or laptop. So now if I drag this across, you can hear it with a sub underneath. It's got a lot more low frequency energy. Now, one thing, we're not really going to get too much into mixing yet, but just so it doesn't kind of give too much low frequency energy and distort the track later on, we just go into high pass the bass. If you hold command, that'll allow you to press both of these to listen. Now I've got quite a good groove going. Later on I probably will change this bass line so it gets a bit more complex, as it is really simple. One thing you can add in is just the groove, so that the offbeat notes are grooving with the drums. I hope these tips or tricks help you with writing a bass line in Ableton. Please have a little mess around using these and send over anything you make. Also, what I would do is, as you've created this bass line, keep duplicating this along, keep making variations just to make it different so it changes over time. Or you may be happy with it being 4 bars or even 2 bars, it's completely up to you. Remember that this is my subjective approach, but I hope this helps you with writing your own music. Thank you everyone, and I'll see you next week for the next